Hello YouTube, iFixItAll here, Team iFixItAll. Today's video is about the 80 volt Greenworks battery operated chainsaw. I've been looking it over in quite a bit of detail. The chainsaw and the charger that I've got mounted. And so far, I've just got one. Well, I personally, in my situation, I have a damage due to shipping right here. I believe that might have been, I'm not sure what that's from, but a little bit of scarring up through here. Charger's working. I called the insurance. We purchased extra insurance on it from the supplier, Tractor Supply, and I may or may not act on it. Either way, I just need to find out, since I've already got this dressed in and hooked up to power. I could tear it all out again, but they're probably going to want the whole saw and charger and everything swapped out. If everything's working fine, I'm okay with it as long as it doesn't affect my warranty. I've been looking over all the little the engineering elements of it, and so far I like, get this off here, the chains Oregon, the bars Oregon. The bar even came with grease in it, but I added more. The up here on the what do you call this, the sprocket. The tech for extracting the battery was interestingly simple. A couple of little springs. That's all it is. So when you put the battery in, it locks in. You push this and those springs pop it out. Let me demonstrate. The battery just drops in. There is no lock or anything. It depends on you, the physical weight of the battery, to drop in and make contact. So I lift it out. Looks like you got 4 poles of contacts there. Probably one for battery sense, and then the other 2 leads are probably 80 volt output. There's the battery. They call it an 80 volt battery, but double check something here. Charges to 80 volts, probably floats right around 72 volts. There you go. Okay. That's the nameplate. Drop the battery in. I got to mark this with a marker because it's not obvious to me. I got to get used to the idea that I got to have this facing that way. But I'm going to go ahead and put a paint mark on it, just so I know. I don't think they thought of that from the factory. Just to be able to never have an error in dropping it in. You got to remember I just see myself trying to get this wrong 50% of the time. So you push it down and it locks. Check your battery. Looking good. And this brake up front actually works. You pull the trigger. You got this child-proof thing going on. If you listen, if you can, there will be a decision being made on the electronics. There will be a contactor of sorts that will click, but power delivery to the motor is interrupted because of this. So this brake is not friction at all. It's not it's not mechanical. It's not a mechanical brake to stop the chain. It literally is just an electrical connection integrating the normal, what people are used to seeing, lever here. But listen up and you'll hear something. Maybe you can hear it up here better. Yep. So let's remove the battery and you'll see what happens. It just, those two springs in there do their job, popping it up. And then it does not have variable speed. I thought that was an interesting question one of my sons had. Hey, Dad, if you pull the trigger just barely, does it barely just to go? And I thought, well, that would be nothing more than just a cheap solution to that would be like an Allen Bradley potentiometer on a thumb wheel here. Somewhere I could regulate my maximum speed. If I wanted to influence the battery duration, whether or not that's worth it or not, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure they had to have thought about variable speed in the trigger, but did they think about a thumb wheel somewhere that you could slow the speed down if you're only cutting a bunch of little stuff and you can get more runtime? Because when it comes to batteries, when it comes to chainsawing, with a good sharp chain, you don't need full speed to get through stuff that big around, you know, even stuff that big around. And sometimes in the world of chainsaw, high speed isn't really what cuts well. It's that whole technology of sharp teeth or sharp blades is well above my pay grade. I remember when I had a bandsaw mill, I used to talk to a woodmiser all the time about bandsaw blades. And they always told me to make sure to push that bandsaw through that log as quick as you can. But then that always ended up giving me wavy lumber cuts. And school of thought is let the blade do the cutting. But their thoughts were, with high speed and pushing it through, you're spending less time working your teeth to get to the end. So in this case, a variable speed would be nice, but I'm asking for too much, I'm sure, for the price point. But a thumb wheel, adjustable potentiometer, something that's low profile where you can't bump it, perhaps, maybe a little wheel of sorts. Or perhaps maybe the battery could be modded to decrease the voltage, perhaps. You're still going to have a voltage drop across the potentiometer in the form of heat and wasted energy, so I'm not sure if there's even a net gain on that. It would be in the BMS system, battery management or battery monitoring system. There's a BMS card here. I'm thinking if this data sheet, the nameplate says 72 volts. Let me see, that's 12, 24, 36, 48, 60, 72. There's probably 6 groups of 12 volt strings or 12 groups of 6 volt or whatever the grouping is to make it 80 volts, but 72 is divisible by 12. And it float charges at 80 so that when you go to use it, you're running at actually 72 or so volts. I'm not sure what the indicators mean as far as battery voltage with relationship to how many LEDs are illuminated, but right now that would be probably 72 volts if I were to test it, take it off, put a meter on it, push the button and see what the voltage is. So this is with the brake not applied, and there is a time delay. So there's a start capacitor in here somewhere, or a battery, a BMS controller circuit, be it on the battery pack itself, which it probably is, or it's a start delay to ramp up the motor. It's a brushless motor. Here goes. You'll hear what I'm talking about. It just does not instantly come on. Hear that difference in sound? So it ramps up. I only ran it a couple of seconds without oil. And let's get to the only thing. Okay, so that had nothing to do with Greenworks, the damage. It's just shipping. Now this piece here, some people use that. I'm not a professional logger, so I don't need that dog. But it's not sharp. So I'm sure it does a job. It keeps the working surface off the face of the plastic. It could have been built out further, but then again, that would have reduced some cutting thickness to qualify for 16 inches. Speaking of which, let's get a tape measure on that. Let's see what we really got here. I can move the chain a little bit, something to grab a hold of. It looks like something. What do we got here for real? Yeah, I don't understand their science on this. I don't see 16 inches. You guys can see the 16-inch mark. But the bar is called a 16-inch bar. I'm not really caring too much about a longer bar. I think a shorter bar would actually give better advantage to the battery. If I gotta cut in I'm not cutting down large trees. This is not. I mean, this is like, I'm a novelty guy. I burn firewood, but I'm not going to be dropping a lot of trees with this. This is going to be my general purpose, drop a tree now and again, or limb cutter type job. The duty this thing is going to get is not going to be by any stretch of the imagination hard duty. It could, because I generally intend to put a lot of my tools to work. I mean, I should have wiped it off by now, but my Craftsman drill has caught hell. It's fairly new, but Jesus, it's earned its keep already. So, this is a well-designed piece of machinery. They thought about you when they had these nuts on here installed. They're called the style of the nuts and how they don't come off. They stay with the cover because of a design. They call it a PEM nut, P-E-M, which means it's shouldered by a reduced circumferential diameter on the other side, which ends up allowing the machinist to flare it out. So it spins on a surface, but it won't come out of a surface. Well made. Backed really well to keep that nut on the cover, so when you're in the field taking it off, you don't lose your hardware. The adjustment's right here in the middle. Very, very strange location, but I find it comfortable. It's taking a side approach of your tool and turning that labor taking the rotational labor of your screwdriver and turning it downward 90 degrees to move a threaded paw that slides the bar forward or back. And it's pretty clearly marked on the side which way to go. And I don't need to look at this anymore because clockwise is tighten, counter is loosen up slack. I think I have this chain pretty much set right. It still suffers from the same little ordeal you have to go with on all chainsaws, which is when you have your cover on and your nuts are snug and you've got everything right, you still have to kind of lift the chainsaw up in the rear to take up slack in the bar and hold it in the rear while you tighten up your two nuts. That's the best way to do it. You leave those nuts a little bit loose, you make your final adjustment on the chain, and then you tighten those nuts down. They give you a tool. It's two-sided. I'm not sure what the... I haven't used this but just for the cover, so I don't know what the other socket is for yet. There's two size sockets on here. I can't... I'm sure there's another piece of hardware on here somewhere. This is the one that fits the cover. The other side is for something else. I'm not... Wait, I just figured it out. It's the same size on both sides. Okay, so they did you another favor. What would have been the original spark plug, they just shaped it to be same on either end. That way you don't waste time. It's interesting. Flathead on the other side. This is the part I want to get to, though. The part I really don't like. Really don't like. And this would probably be Greenworks wide as far as all of them. So they tell me in the manual to keep my eye on my oil level indicator. And I'm like, where's my indicator? Well, it's inexpensively integrated into the molding of... Remove the light here. The molding of the container itself. Oh yeah, I don't even know if you can even see that. I'm going to be making a... Well, it's pointless because I'll show you why. They did a great job on the oil level, the oil fill thing. I like how they did this. They just thought about the people. There's a vent integrated into it, and man, is it a real tight vent because I can barely push air through it. So the vent actually will work. It's just, don't expect it to flow air real well. So I'm going to take this cover off, and it comes with a lanyard on it, but mine was not hooked up. The lanyard, so check yours. My lanyard was not hooked up. It's real simple. You just got to fish everything out of the tank here and get to that plastic piece and snap it into the hole bee there. Here's what I don't like. Something wrong with the design on this. If you look down in there, you can see the... Gosh, I wish I could get this out of here now. I don't know if I can. I'm just going to try to slide this out of the way so I can make my point on this video. Look down in the hole there. Now, I'm going to call that the oil strainer. In the saw's natural aspired position, it's rotated this way. So that means that oil strainer is pointed up. So if it's pointed up, dang it. I'm just going to try to work with what I got here. If it's pointed up, I'm going to lay it back on its side again so you can get my point. Do you see what I see? It's just, what I see here is that looking straight into it, oil can't get to your bar if you're halfway empty. I don't believe it can. I've looked at this real close. I haven't taken this container out yet, and I'm sure there is a way to do that. But I don't see another way. While you're cutting in the, let's call it the horizontal, parallel with the ground position, where the saw is rotated like this, and that means that filter looking straight in, if your oil level is to here, you're probably having a hard time getting oil out to your bar. Okay, so what do you do about that? I don't like it. It tells me that most of the time when we saw wood, most of the time we're like this. They should have laid that screen this way if they had to make a decision. That and down low in the tank. In this instance, that strainer is, some light on that. That looks okay. Yeah, I'm looking straight in. In this instance, this is most of the time the most normal position. That strainer right there is going to be having a hard time pulling oil if it's half full. I've got to think about that. What do I do? While I'm straight, it's weird because if your log is fairly thick, you don't want to have to pull out to turn the log sideways to add lube and then drop back into your cut for a little while because you know you only have a half a tank. That's the biggest issue I have. I'm going to call tech support on that and clarify, but I don't want to bust anybody's balls right now. I'm just thinking that this is a design I don't like as far as the orientation of that filter. Everything else is built really strong and well. I'm going to be doing a use video. This is just a boxing up and checking things out video, and how well they made it. It's every bit, it feels every bit as heavy as a equivalent gasoline chainsaw you would expect in this variety, I feel. It might be a hair lighter, but it's definitely got some weight to it. So, all right, well, that ends this. Y'all have a great day. Look for part 2 of the usage test. See ya.